Coming up on today's edition of the Art Marketing Podcast, I get to introduce ArtHelper AI. And specifically, I'm going to be talking about AI broadly. Then I'll get into the specifics, how it pertains to you guys as creatives, how I believe it is the perfect storm for creatives. And then I will introduce our brand new app. All right, so a bit of a different type of episode coming at you guys to start the new year off in style. It's 2025, and already we're having a moment. So what is this episode all about, you might say? This is a calling all artists, I might say. It's a battle cry. It's Paul Revere riding on his horse saying the British are coming, except it's not the British, it's AI. Or I love quoting the African proverb. You've likely heard this one, but every morning in Africa, a gazelle wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the fastest lion, or it will be killed. Every morning in Africa, a lion wakes up. It knows it must run faster than the slowest gazelle, or it will starve. It doesn't matter whether you're the lion or whether you're the gazelle. When the sun comes up, you better be running. Well, it's 2025, and it's time to start running. Over the course of the last 6 months, I've actually been blown away in just generally surveying my customers and then a ton of you folks that show up on my webinars and my lives. I know already that creatives of all stripes, again, customers and non, a great many of you guys have already played with AI in some capacity. Like, I'm blown away. It doesn't matter what the age range is, what part of this country they're in, what type of artist they're in. A great many of you have played around with it and experimented with it. And I would say probably a much smaller number are actually using it regularly. And I'm here to say, whether you've never used AI at all, whether you've kicked the tires and you play with it a little bit and you're like, okay, yeah, this is great, but it doesn't really help me, I'm moving on, or whether you're using it regularly, AI is here. It's about to change absolutely everything. My hope is that this episode will convince you of that fact and you will start running. Once you do, everything in your art, photography, creative business is going to change for the better. So I want to cover some thoughts on AI broadly, drill into how it's a perfect storm for creatives, and then I'll introduce our new app and then sort of cast some vision about where we're going to go from there. And I want to start with some of the experts, and specifically I want to start with Jensen Huang. If you've never heard about him, he is the co-founder and CEO, longtime CEO of a company called NVIDIA. And if you don't know about NVIDIA, it's been around for like a long, long time. They started making graphics cards for computers. They're the graphic cards in a lot of the computers that we have. And they did that for years and years and years, and it was just really a graphics card company. Well, AI, instead of CPUs, I know this is getting a little technical, but I'll just do it quickly. AI, instead of CPUs, central processing units, i.e. Intel inside, or AMD, what most of our computers have is like the so-called brain. NVIDIA's graphics cards use what are called GPUs, graphical processing units. And it just so happens that the perfect storm of how everything is now working in AI, all of these AI models are trained, leveraging what are called GPUs, graphical processing units. And so the primary benefactor of all of this, especially in the United States, worldwide too, actually, has been NVIDIA. And so that they're sort of the computer hardware company right now that is everybody's buying millions and millions and millions of dollars of these things to train the AIs. And it's funny because it's a perfect use case for this classic meme headline. You've seen these online, like how it started versus how it's going, right? And you could say of NVIDIA, how it started, making GPUs for computers so people could play video games. How it's going, since 2019, NVIDIA stock has soared an astounding 3,776%, creating unprecedented wealth among its workforce. 78% of the employees are millionaires. 37% of the employees are worth over $20 million. So the historical transformation and wealth creation that's going on with AI right now is already just out of control. Why I'm bringing it up, though, these guys that are at the forefront, and I'm going to quote a couple of them, starting with Jensen, they have a view that's like 6 months to 9 months to a year to several years ahead of what us normal plebes have. And so they sort of see where things are going ahead of time. And so I think it makes a ton of sense to pay attention to what they say and how they say it. And on my live broadcast, I've been playing this video. You guys might have seen it. It went pretty viral. Well, let me just play it and we'll listen to it.
If you're not engaging AI actively and aggressively, you're doing it wrong. You're not going to lose your job to AI. You're going to lose your job to somebody who uses AI. Your company is not going to go out of business because of AI. Your company is going to go out of business because another company used AI. There's no question about that. And so you have to engage AI as quickly as possible. If you're not...
I love that clip. And, you know, the scary overtones of it aside, you guys are creatives, you're artists, you're photographers. You're not going to lose your job, okay? So ignore that scary part. But instead, focus and embrace the potential part, the opportunity part, which I think is the key in all of this AI stuff, because I 100% believe what he's saying, that you've got to start embracing it right now. I said it's 2025 and we're having a moment. That moment is getting switched on to AI and realizing the potential it has in a creative business. I want to bring up another point. And this time I'm going to quote a tweet by Sam Altman. Sam Altman, he founded OpenAI. Their product is ChatGPT, which was like, you know, the first large language model that came on the scene and everyone started using. And so his tweet is, I quote, "Prediction. AI will cause the price of work that can happen in front of a computer to decrease much faster than the price of work that happens in the physical world. This is opposite of what most people, parentheses, including me, expected, and will have strange effects." And I love this tweet, okay? There's like an absolutely wonderful ad that I saw that like underscores this, and I'm looking at it right now as I read it to you. And it's this building that's under construction, okay? And there's this like giant wrap over the entire face of the building. And it says in text, "Hey, ChatGPT, finish this building." And then underneath it, in bold in this box, it says, "Your skills are irreplaceable." And I think that's very much the case with AI. Like, it is going to take a lot of these computer-related tasks and lower the cost of those tasks down to zero, make them very easy to do. And yeah, there's going to be a ton of jobs that are lost as a result of it. I think more opportunity will come. But my point in referencing Sam Altman is like, for those of you guys that have a skill with your hands, it's really, really hard to disrupt you. So it represents this perfect moment in time, because what do all of you guys create with? Your hands, right? I'm going to come back to this point in just a second. I want to talk briefly about my personal experience. I've always been a huge computer nerd and loved technology and loved marketing and just loved all things computers. So as such, I've swan dove into the whole AI thing since basically ChatGPT came onto the scene. I've played with hundreds of AI apps at this point. All the models, learned prompting, build custom GPTs, tried all the various different image generation models, used it for transcribing and voice replacement, avatar generation, writing, social media updates, video analysis, you name it. And I'm still trying several new apps weekly. And, you know, in addition to that, which is just fun and I enjoy it, I've cycled through a number of these different apps and services that I've bolted into the marketing department at Art Storefronts. And some we've been using for more than like 2 years plus at this point. And it has drastically saved on costs and made my entire team more productive. So there's already real world examples where AI is both driving down our costs and increasing our output at the same time. That's not normal. That's not how this normally works. And in addition to that, I've become a hardcore power user of our new app called ArtHelper, which I'm going to get to in a minute. And all of its use cases and what it does are all of your use cases, all about the things that it takes to run a creative business. And through all of that trial and error and hacking and fumbling and trying all these things and saying that result is ridiculous, that's not really helping me, this is boring, moving on to the next step, and just fighting through all of that, I've come to get a really good taste of not just what's possible right now, but where it's going to go and how best to position oneself to thrive in this new world. And what I've come to learn and believe is that this future is absolutely staggering broadly, but specifically for creatives, it's a perfect storm. It is absolutely a perfect storm. And so let's talk briefly about our industry, why AI is going to be the perfect storm for creators of all stripes generally, but really specifically for artists and photographers. Let me ask you this. If I surveyed 1,000 artists and photographers that are working today, and I asked that 1,000, how many of them have had even a single paid employee in their art photography creative business? What do you think that number would be out of 1,000? I've done this lots of times. In my experience, surveyed, in my experience, it would likely be more than 10, but less than 20 out of the 1,000 that have even a single paid employee, let alone multiple. So we're talking between 1% and 2%. And there are a number of reasons for this, right? Successful artists in photographies, this industry at a macro has pretty much always followed the power law. The top 1% of working artists make all of the money, and really it's the top half of 1%, the vast majority of it. And it's how it's always been. After that comes everybody else. Usually the only ones who have a team working with them, let's forget about team. Let's even just say one full-time employee, okay? Let alone a team, is a very small number, right? Like 1% and 2%. And I would also say the advance of technology, both from an equipment standpoint on the photography side, i.e. cameras used to be more expensive and you had film and you had to process it and go through all of that. And then we moved to digital and then costs came down and then everyone's got a camera in their pocket now as a result of a cell phone. On generally the art side, we used to live in a modality where it was either the gallery model or you were doing in-person theaters and shows. That was it. Now, with the advent of the internet, being able to sell direct, even more so with the advent of print on demand, and print on demand both for wall art and merchandise, there are currently more artists and photographers and creatives worldwide that are selling their creations on more different product types than at any time in history. Technology has just enabled a massive, massive expansion here. And in some ways, you could say there's almost an inexhaustible supply. That's the competition you guys are up against. Now, you add to the fact that creatives, by and large, the way that you guys are wired, the occasional unicorns aside, often means that you're not great at marketing and sales to begin with. You don't like doing it. It's not something you put a ton of time, energy, and effort into. And you combine all of those things and you get the current state of the industry as it is right now in 2025. A bunch of creatives out there with work to sell and not enough attention, eyeballs, buyers of the work to do so. And what this leads to is what I constantly see in I'm going to call a linear growth situation. And it's this notion of linear growth versus exponential growth. And you guys are trying to grow a creative business. You know what all of that entails. You have to create the work and then also do everything else. Get it ready for sale, market it, selling it, accounting, legal, customer support, all of it. And 99% of creatives out there are one-man bands. You're playing all the instruments, you're singing, you're the sound, and you're the lighting guys, you're the roadies. So you couple this fact with the fact that you likely have a day job or kids or a busy life, or you're caring for a sick family member, or you're not in the best of health yourself. Basically, you have the life issues that all of us do. That, and like the rest of us, you only have 24 hours in a day. An old boss of mine used to say, you got 3/8. You have 8 hours to sleep, 8 hours to do your job, and 8 hours for everything else. What are you going to do with your 8? Or you're not working, you're not sleeping, right? What are you going to do with that 8? And the answer is you do the best you can. You try to get everything that you can done in your creative business. And what this leads to, and it's a big if you can stick with it and stay consistent and do all of those tasks, your marketing, you're preparing your images for the website, your fairs and shows, whatever you're doing. If you can stick to all of that creatively, you're going to be in a linear growth scenario because it's still just you at the end of the day. Building the business is a long, slow, arduous grind that is really hard to keep doing consistently, especially when the results come slowly as they do in a creative business. So what we all want, what we all strive for, what we all dream about is exponential growth, where the growth is like a rocket ship in contrast to the slow train that we're on currently. And so if we combine that entire scenario together and we revisit the point I made earlier, is where I'm seeing the perfect storm scenario. AI, specifically for artists, for the first time in your entire career, you have team members, you have a staff, you have employees, you have writers and creatives at your beck and call. They're ready to work for you day and night. They don't get tired. They're like unpaid interns that never sleep. They don't complain, and they will work whenever you are ready for them to work for you. Generating creative assets and writing social posts and emails and creating website content and a myriad of other things that just never got done in a timely fashion before. All the things that made it onto your to-do list, which is really your I don't want to do list, that sat on that list for days and likely weeks and often months and never got done, they're getting done now. They can get done today. You combine that with the fact that what you guys create is by your own hands, a manual craft of labor and love, that AI will not be able to replace what you do as artists and creatives. We got the perfect storm here. I like to think of it in terms of GDP. What is GDP? It stands for gross domestic product, the total of goods and services an entity or typically a state or a nation produces. It's a way we measure nations, right? It's a way of measuring the productivity of a country or the ranking them as such. And I like to think in terms of GDP. I'm here to tell you that creatives have a GDP. It's the sum total of work that you create, the actual product, the art, the sum total of marketing work done to get that work in front of eyeballs, and then the sum total of all that work that sells. That is the GDP of an artist, a photographer, a creative. With the help of AI, I am here to tell you, as an individual creative, as the one-man band, you can 10x your GDP this month using less time than you are currently spending for 1x of GDP. Get good at using AI, and you can 50x your GDP. I am experiencing this and seeing this daily for the last few months, and it has me more excited for you than I have been in forever. We've been doing this at Art Storefronts for 10 years now. Feel like I got a pretty good sense, pretty good read of the facts on the ground. What are they broadly? All creatives have a marketing problem. To grow their businesses, they need more, call it attention, call it eyeballs, call it people to view their creations. This is the hardest part of the business. This is actually, when you think about it, it's the whole story of our business, really, the entire evolution of where we are today and where we've come from. Artists need websites. So we build the best website for selling art. Good, right? Wrong. Nobody's coming to the websites. No one's coming. Okay. Then we need to teach them to market their art so we can get people to come to the website. So we create playbooks and calendars of what to do all year long and hold 9 webinars a week, teaching artists how to market and getting them unstuck with good support. Okay, we're good now, yeah? No, wrong. Okay, well then let's write some software that does some of the marketing for them. We got to be good now, right? No, actually. It's not to say that we haven't made significant improvements along the way. We have a ton of customers that are doing way better now than they've ever done before, more consistent, all of that. And that's great. But we're still hitting a wall, and we're still hitting it currently. And why? Why is that? Because our customers still, even with everything we offer, only have 24 hours in a day. Lots of time, just one of the 3/8, right? Life happens. Even with education and hand-holding and software doing some of the marketing, it's really, really hard to keep it up consistently. Moreover, anytime the rubber meets the road, things get tough, life happens, the first thing that gets cut in an art business is the marketing. You all know this. You've all experienced this countless times, I'm sure. In the dream, the goal of all art businesses is to see that exponential growth, that rocket ship growth I referenced earlier. Yet not many get to that level of growth because at the end of the day, they're still alone. They're still the one-man band. They still don't have a team. And it's a chicken and egg, right? If you could just sell enough art such that you could afford to hire a team, you would hire a team and you would get the exponential growth. I'm here to tell you that AI looks to change this situation once and for all. My customers, and I imagine you too, you're not looking for an education or support or a fancy website or playbooks or webinars or anything else, really. All of those operate under the premise that the artist still has to do all of the work. They don't want to do all of the work. You don't want to do all of the work. You want the work done for you. And this is the crux of the entire situation. Creatives need the work done for them. Where AI is today, as I'm recording this right now, January 2025, is the closest that we have ever gotten to this being a reality. It's not there 100% yet, but that moment is coming soon. What makes me even happier, okay, even more fired up, is it just keeps getting better. The entire situation just keeps getting better. And if you look broadly at the AI landscape out there, it is moving so fast. I am talking Usain Bolt fast. I'm talking faster than anything I've ever seen. And it, sort of an interesting way that I like to think about it, AI, you could truncate this all down to like 2 years. It's all happened in 2 years, but it sort of reminds me of the path that traditional media took over, like, call it like a 20 or 30 or 40-year period. Back in the day, there were a few newspapers and the big three on TV, ABC, CBS, NBC. Then came along cable, and there were hundreds of channels, and so too blogs. And so there were hundreds of places that you could get news and read. Then the internet exploded, and you got social media. So there are literally hundreds of thousands of media sources that you can go and spend your watching and reading time consuming. Nobody could possibly watch it all or know what is going on in all these various different channels and outlets. So the attention and the eyeballs in this last 30 years, 40 years for us have gotten crazy fragmented. Huge audience for programs and newspapers vanished, and instead they're spread across this broad spectrum of content. And AI and its commensurate apps are just like that currently right now in 2025. It's moving so fast. There are so many options. New ones are popping up daily that it can be an overwhelming thing to contemplate. It certainly is for me. Nobody has time to keep up with how fast it's moving and know what the latest, greatest this and which ones they should be using and everything else. And you hear that whole scenario and you're like, hey, that's overwhelming. I'm here to tell you, I think it's having this incredibly democratizing effect. It places all of us, old, young, tech sophisticated, not, just getting started selling art or super successful, anyone in between. It grabs all of us at once from all over the globe and places us all at the exact same part, the exact same line, right at the starting line of a race. And nobody really has an edge on anybody else. It's those that are actively testing and forcing themselves to adapt that are already winning and will win. It's about the individual creatives that are figuring out how to leverage it now and adapt it to their process that are getting ahead. I can't stress this part enough. Within days, if you can start implementing AI into your work and significantly increase your GDP, I mean, I might even say you can do so within hours of playing around with some of these apps. And remember what Jensen said, you won't lose your job to AI. You'll lose your job to somebody that uses AI. I really believe that is the world that we're moving into. And again, the fact that it's just so new, that it's moving so quickly. Everybody is starting from zero. And that just makes it so doggone encouraging. All of AI, as it's currently constituted, more or less works the same way, from the same principles, with the same models. So it's kind of like if you learn to drive a car, you can, with a quick study, drive a truck or drive a sports car, drive a van or drive a bus, right? It's all just driving. That's the scenario with AI. If you start learning some of these apps and you start playing with it, you have a leg up on everyone else because you start to understand the fundamentals, and they all work the same right now. And so that's how it works with AI today. So all of the time you invest in learning how to put AI to work for you applies across the board, regardless of what apps or use cases you determine are the best for your business. And it's just so exciting. I mean, I have just never been this fired up, period. And it's not all rosy. Okay. Let me talk about the downsides. One of the problems with AI currently, it's trying to be all things to all people. It's a one size fits all baseball cap. Works for some, but tends to be quite a bit off on most. And this manifests itself with ridiculous language that comes out of ChatGPT or Claude or Grok or any of them, or sometimes when AI goes way off the reservation, which we call hallucinations, and just comes up with nonsense, or with results they're okay, but you use it and then you find like, okay, that was a good result, but you know what? It's just going to be faster if I do it myself, right? And then you quit. There's a ton of that going on, right? Because it takes too much time tweaking it rather than just doing it yourself. It's sort of like, how I think it's like a generic cookbook. Hey, tell me how to make a pot roast versus I would like to make a pot roast with a cut of Wagyu chuck steak, onion, celery, and carrots in the mirepoix. I want to use my own beef stock from the bones of a non-hormone injected gas grass, grass-fed and finished cow. I don't care for bay leaves, so please leave those out. I have fresh thyme, rosemary, and sage in my garden, so please use those as well as garlic for my aromatics. And I prefer aged stouts to the traditional red wine. Please help me create this dish. That's what we want. That's the dish we want, what we have exactly in our mind, not just a generic pot roast. So can you get that level of customization off the shelf with AI tools? That beautiful pot roast that you had in your mind that you want made that way? Yeah, you can, but you need a bachelor's degree in how to prompt the AI, which means how to drive the AI. And then you need to clear your calendar for a couple of weeks or even a few months so you can tweak and adjust and tweak and adjust and tweak and adjust until you get exactly how you like. Nobody's got time for that, right? Next, all of the AIs off the shelf are basically just text editors at this point in time. Boring little boxes, you put your text into it and it spits out some additional text, or boring little boxes, you throw your image in there and maybe some images come out, or whatever the case you might be doing, video, take your pick. And you adjust things from there. And while the results can be amazing, it's not the most visual of experiences. We as creatives like visual experiences. We want a beautiful interface and a beautiful GUI. GUI's graphical user interface, a beautiful GUI where we see everything. So let's put all that together. AI is about to change everything, so you know you need to be using it. It gives creatives superpowers and really employees that they never had before, that they were never going to get. For those that start using it, they can 10x their GDP of their art business overnight. And the primary rub is that none of them are customized to work for the nuances of an art business. It takes a bunch of tweaking and adjusting and knowing how to do all that. All of that was the framework that drove us to create ArtHelper AI. All of that, in addition to the fact that everything that we've done as a business at Art Storefronts in these 10 years, our customers are still not outputting the amount that we want them to be because of all the aforementioned reasons. Consistency being so hard, life happening, and everything else. So let's talk about ArtHelper. What is it? It's an AI application, laser focused on making creatives' lives easier by doing the work that their businesses require. It's an AI that's been custom tuned to all the intricacies of selling art, photography, and creations, both online and off, and really what we've learned over the last 10 years of being in the trenches in this business and attempting to do everything that we can to grow art and photography business. It has a beautiful graphical interface that seeks to represent how creatives like to look at their work and how they want to work. And better still, it's completely free to try. And you can all see what you think and kick the tires, so you don't have to take my word of it. But one of the ways that I love to describe what it does and sort of stitch together everything that I just ranted about in that intro is, let me pose a question to you. You just finished a brand new piece. Could be a photograph, could be a painting, mixed media piece, sculpture, craft, whatever it is. Now what? You just finished the piece. Now what? Well, you need to give the piece a title. You need to give the piece a description. Not just a description you're going to use for human beings and social media, but a description you're going to use for Google in an SEO sense, especially if it's going online. You need to create some visual assets that will help you use to market the piece. Think room mock-ups, so we have currently. You need to post about the piece on social media. That means you need a proper social media description that's going to get you the most reach on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, TikTok, or whatever. Perhaps you want to write a blog post about the piece and your process and why you created it. You need to compose an email, have images, send it to your list, let them know it's available. You need to post again on social media because one post is never enough. Maybe even a few different times so more people see it. Even if I just took that list, that entire list, and said, okay, creative, over to you, get going. How long would it take you to accomplish all of that? Would you get it done today? Would it take a week? Would it take longer? Or would most of it just never get done? The sum total of all of that is what I reference when I say like a creative's GDP. It's all part of that equation. Getting all of that work done, that is getting the work in front of the eyeballs, that it is going to take to sell it, is part of the GDP of an art or photography business. How much output of GDP are you going to be able to accomplish daily, weekly, monthly? Well, what if I told you that entire list, everything that I just went over, it all needed to be done today? I mean, I want it done today before you leave your office. What would you say to me? You'd look at me and you'd go, yeah, right, Patrick. I'm going to need a week to get all of that done. Do you have any idea how long that takes me? That's all of my to-do list. I'll let you know when I finish. What I'm here to tell you is that not only can you get all of that done today, you can get all of that done in a few hours. If you get good at it, less than an hour. And if this was a video podcast instead of audio, I would be showing you right now, and I would be able to get that entire list done in less time that it's taken me, that I've been talking so far in this episode. What does your art business look like? Your photography business, your creativity business, whatever it is. If you have that level of productivity, getting all of that done today for every one of your pieces, daily, weekly, monthly, what does your business look like at the end of 2025 when all of that is getting done? How many more people see your art? How many more conversations about it do you have? How many more people share your work with others? How many more commissions do you get? And how much more of it do you sell? What would your business look like if that was your output daily for the entire 2025? That is the notion of exponential growth versus linear growth, of a slow-moving train versus a rocket ship. And I'm here to tell you that level of productivity for all of you starting today is possible and not science fiction. It's not science fiction. It's here right now. People ask me, like, why are you so fired up? Why are you talking with so much energy discussing all of this? This is the reason. I know for the first time in history, creative businesses that never had a staff or employees, never had a team, now have one. That all of the items on that to-do list never got done, and now they will get done, and they'll get done in a day. Everything in your creative business can and will change. And all you have to do is start putting the AI to work for you, to start experimenting with it and learning and trying. I want to wrap things up about where we are currently and where we are headed, okay? Where are we currently? Our AI can look at your image and complete not just everything I outlined above, but also things like write your artist statement, find Facebook and Reddit groups where you can potentially discover if you have a niche, discover groups that might like your art, discover locations to post your work. It can help you run sales, post on LinkedIn, help you price your art, come up with a marketing plan, write Facebook ad copy. If you're on Etsy, it can do the titles, the descriptions. It can write your Instagram bio, come up with Reels ideas, come up with ideas for new pieces, critique your work for you. All of that is in the water already as of right now, today. And it's really pretty amazing. Where it's going very soon, though, oh my gosh, you guys. Post to the socials for you. Offer one-click print on demand directly out of the app. 100% image backup storage search engine for your work. Imagine if you could upload every single solitary piece you've ever created in your history. The AI gives it all numbers. It archives the images so you never lose it. It gives you a color search engine. It gives you a geo search engine. So for photographers or artists, it will know where the piece was. I mean, I'm putting up images that are paintings of streets of the Montmartre in France, and it knows exactly the street, and it tells me. What if all of that was in a search engine for you? What if all of your work was in one window and you had a search engine that was able to look at all of those things? That's coming. Okay, that's coming. Advanced Instagram posting techniques. It can auto-generate websites for you. Advanced marketing automation. All legal documentation for your creative business done in minutes. All of that stuff is coming. And the list that we have already is even more exciting than that. All nuanced, all focused around a creative business. If you remember what I said about how fast all of this is moving, all of that applies to the features that we're adding to it. It's so easy to add some of this advanced functionality that the speed at which this technology is moving, I've never seen anything like it. The updates, it's like that. It's like that saying where, like, by the time the ink is dry on the paper, it's already out of date, right? Because that's how fast things are moving. And at least in terms of our app, ArtHelper, we're doing a complete build in public mode. Once you get into it, you can suggest features. What normally happens when you suggest a feature in an app? Hey, it'd be great if this thing had such and such. Yeah, it goes into the ether, into the air, and nothing ever happens. Well, we have an internal system with ours where not only can you suggest features, but other folks can upvote on those features, can comment on those features, and then there's a roadmap. Is this feature being contemplated? Is this feature in production? Or is this feature been shipped, i.e. is it live in the application? And so we have this ability to ask this question How can this AI best serve you? Don't think about it. Write it down. Tell us how you would like it to do, what you want it to do, and then get it on the list and start getting votes. See how many comments it has. See if other people want it to do the same thing, because we want to hear about it. And what I love more than anything else is that none of which I have covered today you need to take my word on. ArtHelper is live right now, completely free to try, and the link will be down in the show notes. I'll also include a link to our YouTube channel and Instagram, which has a ton of video content explaining how it works, explaining how to use. But the beautiful thing is, it's so simple. It's so simple. The majority of our customers that are using it already, young, old, tech sophisticated, and not, we're barely even getting any people asking questions. More on how to tweak it than actually how to use it. So it's really, really easy. So if you want to try it, I want you to try it. And you can click the link in the show notes wherever you're seeing this, or you can just Google ArtHelper.ai. You can Google that, or the URL is ArtHelper.ai. Get in there, try it. Can't wait to see how you guys are going to use it, and get a look at what's possible with an AI that is completely focused on what you guys do as creatives. That also means that we're going to have to tweak this podcast again. This podcast started out as hardcore marketing training, and then it morphed a bit over COVID to live broadcast and what to do about that dumpster fire of a situation. And then the discussions lately have focused heavily on artist and photographer interviews. So we're still going to be doing all of that. But what will change in the coming weeks are all the tactical ways that you guys can start putting AI to work for you. And I can't wait to start getting into it. I've already been doing a ton of these on live broadcasts, and I'm just so fired up about this, for the level of productivity that you are going to have, for the work that never got done that's going to start getting done. So on that note, thanks for listening. The sun is up. Get running and have a great rest of your day. Try out ArtHelper. Let us know what you think.